Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas. I was hoping to do this before the Yankees-Indians game one on, what's today? On Tuesday night. But Mike was, of course, dragging us. You don't know what the hell he was doing, but
I was breaking news, buddy. I was breaking news. Some of us has to work these days, okay?
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that. So we're recording this at the top of the seventh inning. The Yankees, I'm floored. They're up 7-2. It's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. I said before that they would get shut out in back-to-back games, but Judge hit a 2-run home run 4 pitches in, and they really haven't looked back since. Garrett Cole, 11 strikeouts so far. Giancarlo Stanton's up. I said the over-under 3.5 strikeouts. He has struck out twice already, poised for number 3. So looking like the over will hit there. Which
tweet do you regret the most, Frankel? Is it the one where you said the Yankees play only good at Yankee Stadium, which is a fact? The Yankees get shut out in back-to-back games, which is not true. And then your confusing tweet about how many times Giancarlo Stanton's going to strike out today, which was so poorly worded, you had to clarify it to yourself before anyone else could tell you it was a poorly worded tweet, because your incompetence just kind of shone through this time.
I just wanted to make sure that, because 3.5 is a lot of strikeouts for 2 games, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that, hey, I'm talking about one game here, because all he does is strike out, and I just wanted to make sure there was no confusion, and you knew that you guys set the record straight with some people. That's all.
I have not had a chance to turn on the Yankee game. It's on right here next to me, so I'm watching with you, Frank.
So I'm a little bit behind, so you probably saw what Stanton did in the top of the 7th inning with 2 outs and no one on base.
I won't tell you. I want to see you react live to this as well as I think everyone else listening. But
1-2 to Stanton. You took a great discipline by Giancarlo Stanton right there, laying off the pitch way outside. It's 2-2 against this guy who's got looks like a man bun. I hate man buns.
That's the least shocking news of 2020, that Frankel is against man buns. I'm just surprised you thought that. I still don't know if they're going to win the series, but I felt confident with Cole on the mound, especially with Higgy catching. So I'm surprised that you had that little confidence in this team heading into game one with the highest paid player in baseball.
They're the most Jekyll and Hyde team in Major League Baseball. They had a 10-game winning streak. It was like they could not lose. Then they had that 5-15 stretch where they seemingly couldn't find their way out of a boat. And then they closed the season horrifically, not the way you want to go in the postseason at all. There's really not a single starter I trust. And Giancarlo Stanton with a ground ball at first moves the runners over. Okay, productive out. So he'll likely go under the 3.5. Very surprised. All right, so let's get into these topics here. Huge sports day by the Yankees. Assuming they hold on, they're up 7-2 in the 7th. Big win. We'll see how the rest of the rotation shakes out.
Zero confidence after tonight. I was confident in Cole. I have zero.
I was not in it. I was out. I was like, we have no chance. But now they sucked me in, so we'll see what happens.
Do you know who has not sunk me in? The New York Giants, Frank. I think I'm a pretty optimistic fan, and I try to take the positives out of nothing. I took the positives from the Giants' performance against the Steelers, despite Daniel Jones' 2 turnovers. Even in week 2 against the Bears, I thought they did just enough to keep me reeled in. But their performance on Sunday against the 49ers, Frankel, has completely sunk me to rock bottom. And let me tell you this. How in the world can Nick Mullins throw for 350 yards against you while Daniel Jones can't muster 125 yards? How is that possible? How is all the head coaching experience on the sideline alongside Joe Judge? You have Freddie Kitchens, who was a bad head coach, but albeit a head coach. Jason Garrett, I think he was a Dallas head coach for a decade. How can these guys not scheme up a single play during the game to get a guy open in space? How's that possible? Not a single time in that game did they have a guy going against San Francisco's second-string cornerbacks because Sherman's out. How can they not get one guy open? It befuddles me. They have 38 points through 3 games. 38. The Packers have scored 37 in all 3 games. They didn't force Nick Mullins to punt once. They could not get the 49ers backup quarterback to punt one single time in the game, Frank. Joe Judge has lost me. I'm out. I was all the way in last week. I am all the way out. Daniel Jones looks horrendous. All the confidence I had in him 2 weeks ago, it is quick. It's like I'm in a sinking ship, and we just got shot with a cannon. And the only thing I have is not a bucket. I have a little teaspoon that I'm dumping water out quickly. That's the only thing that's keeping me alive. And the only saving grace, the only thing I can hang my hat on is that we're not as bad as the Jets. That's it. So, Franco, my question for you tonight, because I know you don't want to talk about the Jets. You're out. You only watched 3 plays, all whatever. If the Jets and Giants combined teams and you took an all-star team of New York, could we win 3 games the rest of the season with the Jets schedule? If you combine those two, could they win 3 games with the rest of the Jets schedule?
I mean, like when you look at both rosters, especially with Saquon out, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of talent. I mean, the Giants' best receiver is what, Golden Tate? I mean, he's not
Darius Slayton, but yeah.
No,
regardless,
lighting it up here. I mean, 3. I probably, if I were to set a win total for a 16-game season with both teams, I mean, I'll probably say like 5.
So with 13 games left, is 3 about right?
Yeah, it's one of the worst times in New York sports football, and I can never remember. I mean, the Giants, as we've gone over, have always been sort of the steady force, and the Jets have been the laughing stock aside from a couple of years, whether it was 06, 09, 010. But it's pretty amazing to see, especially the 49ers, who are missing essentially their entire team.
Everybody. Nick Mullins had 360 yards, Frank. Daniel Jones couldn't get 120. They held the ball for 20 minutes. And here's one thing that scares me about Jones. It's like he enjoys turning the ball over. He's turned the ball over in 15 of his 16 career starts, and he's had 9 with at least 2 turnovers. The Jets and Giants, I'm stealing this stat from Big Cat. The Jets and Giants combined have 78 points this season. 19 NFL teams have more than that by themselves. Frank, I have no confidence. I don't know why
you're getting so fired up here. I mean, I'm giving up. I'm out. I'm done.
I'm joining you at rock bottom now. Frank, you have been here, and I give you credit. I don't know how you've done it for so long, but I started the season excited. In 2 weeks, I'm still, and then I went, and I crashed and burned, and man, it sucks. Like not being able to look forward to Giants games on Sundays. Like that's my off day. I planned my day around the Giants playing, and now I think I'd rather eat horse crap than watch Daniel Jones fumble the ball with his tiny hands. Like I don't know. It hurts.
I can't remember the last time in my life where the Jets were playing and I was like, I do not care. I literally do not care. I have no desire to put it on. And it's a horrific state. And I've spoken to a few Jets fans, and the collective mood around the fan base is one of the most demoralized I have ever seen. There's no hope. There's like nothing that you can point to where you can latch onto and think, yes, something positive is happening. It's all negative. Every direction you look, the head coach is an abomination. The ownership has to change, and until it does, I'm out. Until they get a new owner, I'm not a fan, because this is a top-down thing. For whatever, silly me for thinking that maybe if we got Christopher Johnson here instead of Woody, that things would be different, but they've actually gotten worse. In somehow, some way, they've gotten worse. So this is clearly a family issue. They need to move on from the Johnson family. I know the Mets have gone through a similar thing. They're so excited to get rid of the Wilpons and Steve Cohen. We'll see how that turns out, but obviously Mets fans are finally happy that they have a little change of scenery to change the mood. The Jets need something similar. It's not a money issue, it's a competence issue, and the Johnson family is clearly as incompetent as they come.
You asked me last week if the Giants had the number 1 pick, what would you do? And I think I said I'd take Sewell or trade down. Nah, screw it. I'm taking Lawrence. Daniel Jones, goodbye. I'm out.
So who gets the first pick? You got to guess right now. Who gets it?
The Giants have an easier schedule, so I'm going to go with the Jets. But, I mean, we're looking at 1-15 and 2-14.
1-15 for the Jets. Wow. 1-15. That's horrible.
Look at they suck. The Giants suck too. I mean, I don't want to.
The Jets were 1-15 was 96. And you know who they took first overall that year?
No.
Keyshawn Johnson.
Oh yeah, I should have known that.
All right, let's move on from the Jets and Giants. I mean, let's be real; they're irrelevant. I do not.
Suck. They suck.
Titan stuff happened on Tuesday. 3 players tested positive for COVID-19. Titans and Vikings both shut down their facilities until Saturday. The NFL is still insisting on playing that game on Sunday. We'll see what happens here over the next couple of days. But as of Tuesday night at 9:33 Eastern time, that game is currently still on as scheduled. Mike Vrabel scheduled to meet the media on Wednesday as Brett Gardner, I believe. Wow, Brett Gardner. I don't know why he's in the lineup. It should have been Clint Frazier, but man, Brett Gardner. I mean, I'm just at a loss for words for how well he's played in game 1. I mean, unbelievable. 11 runs again. I mean, I'm just floored. Either way, back to football. Monday night, Chiefs were underdogs. I hope every single person and their mothers hammered the Chiefs. They were like plus 160 on the money line, or plus 170, which is absurd. Patrick Mahomes at plus money. I mean, if you didn't hammer that, then you need to reevaluate your life. Lamar Jackson, I knew that once he fell behind, he was toast, and he looked way more incompetent than I thought. 97 passing yards, 15 of 28, one touchdown. I mean, he was a lost cause, a complete lost cause. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, every bit the best quarterback in the league. Say what you want about Russell Wilson. I'm putting my money on Mahomes. 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing. 3-0 in his career against Lamar. Lamar is 21-1 against every quarterback in the league during the regular season, besides Mahomes, who is 0-3 against. You really cannot make this stuff up, Mike.
No, I'll start with Mahomes, then I'll go to Lamar. I don't think Mahomes is just the best quarterback in the league right now. I think he's the best quarterback ever. And I know it's early, and I know it's 3 years into his career, but Tom Brady could not do the things that Mahomes can do at this stage of his career. Peyton Manning could never do the things with his arm that Mahomes can do, and he's won. That's the difference in some of these young quarterbacks with unbelievable arm talent who put all the numbers up. Mahomes has proven that he can succeed and win on the biggest stage, and if it wasn't for a Frank Clark offsides penalty 2 years ago, he might have 2 rings at this point of his career, which is just unfathomable because what he does on a nightly what? What he does on a weekly basis is stupid. The throw he made last night to Mecole Hardman on that double move off his back foot, 45 yards on the money with a dude barreling. Like, quarterbacks should not be able to make that throw. The throw to Hill for the second touchdown of the game. You can put that in one spot, and Chris Collinsworth said it on the not Chris Collinsworth, Louis Riddick. He said he virtually walked the ball out to the end zone, put it in his hands. That's how perfectly thrown it was because Marcus Peters was in good coverage. It is impossible to stop this Chiefs offense more than once or twice in a game. And I think if I'm playing the Chiefs, I would go for it on every 4th down. I don't think there's any point in punting.
You know where the game turned? That first Ravens drive.
They took the field goal. As soon as they kicked the field goal, the game was over.
It's like, and I was watching the game, like, you're playing to win, you go for that. You go for that, and you don't think twice. And the fact that they kicked the field goal means they were playing scared, and as soon as I kicked that field goal, I knew it was over.
And it's crazy because Baltimore goes for it on 4th down and in the red zone more than any other team in the league. So to see them kind of flip their philosophy in the face of Mahomes shows you what they think of that offense. Now back to Lamar real quick. We saw in the playoffs last year against Tennessee, he could not consistently advance the ball downfield to the sidelines or across the middle when the tight end was taken out of the play. That is the exact same strategy Steve Spagnuolo implemented last night and said, Lamar, if you're going to beat us on out routes to the sideline, or you have to make a perfect throw down the seam to Mark Andrews. We're going to have 2 guys right on him and a safety over the top. And this is the second time we've seen Lamar struggle in that exact scenario. He's going to put up numbers. The Ravens are just so much better than most teams in the league. But until he could beat teams with his arm in that capacity, I think Baltimore is going to continue to struggle in the playoffs. The blueprint to stop him is out, and it's easier said than done. I mean, it's not easy to contain him when he runs. It's not easy to have the athletes to shut down Mark Andrews, but the blueprint is out there, and there's no blueprint for Mahomes. That's the difference. There's no blueprint to stop Mahomes. There is a blueprint to stop Lamar, and until he can break the mold, I don't see him winning many playoff games.
The regular season is officially irrelevant for Lamar. What he does during the regular season is, at least to me and from my perspective, is completely meaningless.
Is he the James Harden of the NFL?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Well done.
Thank you.
He's cracked every time he's been in the playoffs. That first Charger game, that Tennessee game. I mean, he crumbles in the biggest moments. And last night was a big moment. And there was a part of me that thought maybe, this is the night that Lamar, rights his wrongs. But he just crumbled under the pressure. And, man, he's really, really got a huge brick wall in front of him, and I don't know if he'll ever run through it. This is bad. I mean, I was never a true believer in his ability to win for real. I don't know about the MVP, but you could debate whether he really deserved that MVP.
No, he was spectacular in the regular season last year, but you play a lot of bad teams in the regular season. I mean, remember week 1 when he had the 5 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown against Miami, a team that was actively trying to tank? I mean, the regular season is not necessarily an indication of how well you can perform against the better teams in the league. And John Harbaugh, I mean, this offense is tailored to him. I think you could put Mahomes in any offense in the league. He'll put up insane numbers. I'm not sure you could put Lamar in the Giants offense and expect him to turn things around.
The talent is undeniable. He's an absolute freak. The way he can just run, get anywhere he wants to go is absurd. And it's really hard to believe that, like, there are instances where he can't put up huge numbers, because when you watch him play and you watch him run around, it's like, how the hell does anyone stop him? And to see him throwing for only 97 yards, to me, is shocking. Like,
he ran for what, 82 too?
82 or 83.
He had 30 yards in that first carry, that 3rd and 2 or whatever, and you thought, like, Chiefs are going to struggle to slow him down. But once you turn him into a pocket passer, at this point of his career, he is not a consistent pocket passer. He just does not have that ability yet. So,
I mean, assuming Mahomes stays healthy, I mean, do you see any team knocking them off in the foreseeable future ever?
No. And if you go back and look, Mahomes has never had a bad game in his career. If you go back and look at
last week, it wasn't great. And he was
300 yards,
3.5 quarters against the Chiefs and 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Look at his final. Look what Lamar did last night. Those numbers say bad game. Now, he may not play his best, but he still finished with 302 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against the Chargers. That's not a bad game. The Super Bowl, he still had 2 touchdown passes and 275 yards. Mahomes, even when he's not great, is a damn good quarterback. And when he's semi-on, he's elite. And when he's on, he's unstoppable. And those levels are levels that he has in the NFL that Russell Wilson is a step below. And then everyone else in the league right now is 2 or 3 tiers under that. So, yeah, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl for the next decade, just like I did with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers after they won, which hasn't panned out yet, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs. Him and Andy Reid are a match made in heaven.
They got the Patriots at home on Sunday, currently a touchdown favorite. What's your read on that game real quick?
I don't think the Patriots can keep up with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone can keep up with them. Yeah.
I don't. I mean, they could run the ball and try to control the clock, but when push comes to shove, I don't trust Cam Newton to get me a touchdown. I trust Patrick Mahomes to get me 6.
I don't know. There's something like up with that Patriots team. I think there's a little magic brewing. I'm a little wary of them this year.
So what magic do you trust more, Belichick, Cam, or Mahomes?
I mean, obviously, I trust Mahomes when all is said and done. I think Cam will at some point will have a stretch where he struggles really. I don't see him like going on his tar. I just can't. Do you see him possibly doing this tar pace from start to finish?
No. And I think Belichick's going to wring him dry for everything he has, but we haven't seen Cam be consistent for a 16-game season outside of his MVP year his entire career. So the numbers suggest that we're going to see Cam revert to more of the mean of what his career's been, which has still been a very good quarterback, don't get me wrong. But he's been arguably at his best the first 3 games of the year in totality, as far as controlling the ball, not turning it over as much, hitting the open receivers underneath. And I don't think they're going to get blown out by the Chiefs next week, but I don't think any team – I wouldn't say any team finishes within 10 points of Kansas City. I don't.
You mean loses by 10 points?
I would take if the line was 10 or
9.5.
I'm saying if it was against any team in the league, I'd take the Chiefs in the points. Franco's watching something in the Yankee game.
I thought that was a home run. My bad. Either way, so we'll see how that plays out. I had a teaser on Sunday. It included the Falcons beating the Bears, and as soon as Nick Foles went into the game, I knew it was over. I just knew that the Falcons were going to crumble, and I could sense the Foles magic. And I was honestly shocked that they pulled the plug on Trubisky, just like that. I mean, they were 2-0, and to see them pull the plug I was floored. What did you make of that decision?
The only assumption I can take from it was, had they had a full offseason, Foles would have been the starter from week 1. They never had faith in Trubisky. They got lucky to beat Detroit in week 1. They should have lost. DeAndre Swift dropped a pass in the end zone with 10 seconds left. They barely beat the Giants, and God knows if you barely beat the Giants, you've done something terribly wrong, because you should beat them by 50. And then it looked like junk in the first half against Atlanta. So I think the only thing I could take away from that is they didn't want to start him to begin with, but you couldn't go from Foles to Trubisky. You had to start Trubisky and then go to Foles. You couldn't do it vice versa. So I'm not surprised at all.
What are your expectations here for Foles here going forward? Are you sensing some Super Bowl magic from a couple of years ago, or is this because Foles is he's one of the most biggest anomalies in the history of professional sports. The way he's been so Jekyll and Hyde, kind of like the Yankees this season. He's either a Super Bowl MVP level or he's backup barrel fighting to get a spot on the team.
Yeah, I think we see more of backup Foles than Super Bowl winner Foles. I think the Bears are a massive fraud at 3-0. Like I said, they probably should be 1-2 and 0-3 if they didn't play the Giants in week 2. But I just don't love the talent on that team. And I know Foles is great, or could be great, but we saw him lose the starting job in Jacksonville early last year. I think he's better when he comes off the bench with no pressure than he is when he's the guy that you have to count on week to week.
We'll see how that plays out. But I don't know. I don't really trust him.
I don't either. I'd be dead scared to play him if he was the quarterback in a playoff game, but on a week 5, week 6, random Sunday afternoon game, like Nick Foles doesn't scare me.
Last NFL topic of the day: Seahawks beat the Cowboys on Sunday, 38-31. But early in the game, DK Metcalf was waltzing into the end zone for a clear-cut touchdown, but he slowed down, got stripped. Is that the worst possible thing that could happen to a football player?
No, because you could get hurt.
But injuries aside, just like playing the game, like the most embarrassing thing. There you go. There's the word. That is horrible. It's horrible.
It's either that or beating your man and having a wide open touchdown and then just dropping it.
No, this is worse. This is more embarrassing. This is like, dude, like you had the ball. All you got to do is like hustle, just even a little bit, and you score.
I think this is the one you get ripped the most for in film, and the one you don't want to be a part of the most when your teammates get a chance to give you shit for it, especially because they won. Had they lost that game, you get ripped to shred. Metcalf would be absolutely getting eviscerated on every talk show, every podcast, and on Twitter. They won, so it's okay. But I think more embarrassing would be a drop, a wide open touchdown catch. No one within 10 yards, you just clunk off your hand or hits your helmet. It'd be like when you're in the outfield and you're trying to catch a ball and it hits you in the head and just doinks off. Like,
but that's not nearly as bad as this. This is like all eyes on you. Like, this is worse. But the only other comparison I could think of is when you're running to the end zone and you drop the ball before you cross the goal line.
Well, it's the same thing.
Is it?
That's dropping the ball before the goal line is worse than getting it hit from behind.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's the same thing. It's a fumble in the end zone. You take a touchdown off the board. So,
all right, moving on to the National Basketball Association. We'll get to the finals here momentarily. I just want to ask you a quick question about Doc Rivers. He's out after 7 seasons. Never made it past the conference semifinals. Blew 2 3-1 leads during his 7 seasons. Just inexplicable. He only lasted 1 year with Kawhi and Paul George, so I thought that they would maybe give him another shot. That Clippers thing is just so weird, like because they should have been in that conference finals against the Lakers. That's what this whole season was about. Clippers Lakers. Who knows if the season didn't get halted like it did, how that would have turned out. I'd like to believe that it would have been Clippers Lakers, but who knows? But either way, Doc Rivers out after 7 seasons. I was really, really surprised. What did you make of that decision?
I was shocked. I had a conversation with Eli when I was in Boston, and Eli told me, he's like, "Yo, if they lose, Doc."
Who Eli? You can't.
We said every Eli's my friend who works for the Heat. Shout out Eli. We'll talk about you in one sec, E. But he told me he would not be surprised if Doc got fired if they lost. I told him I would be absolutely shocked. And turns out everything Eli's told me about the bubble has been right. So maybe I should start listening to the guy who actually works in the NBA. But here's what I don't get, Frankel. If they had lost in this fashion and the season was regular, I'd be all for it. But with the whole bubble situation, the activism the players are showing, guys coming in and out, opting out to play, have other things on their mind. I'm not saying it's an excuse for blowing a 3-1 series lead, and he should be held fully accountable for that. But I don't was it Doc's fault the guys shot like crap in game 7 that Kawhi and Paul George and no one showed up to play? That's partly coaching. Don't get me wrong. But to blame it on him solely feels like the wrong guy to be placing all the blame on. But I will say sometimes if it wasn't a perfect match and you know you only have possibly one more year with these guys, Kawhi and Paul George are free agents after next season, you get a guy in that they want. So they have a better chance to stick around after their contract runs up.
Yeah, so when the Clippers, we did a podcast, I believe, the night before Game 7, and I was like, how the hell do they recover from this? If they blow this, how do they recover? You can't just do same old. You got to you got to shake it up. That said, I am still surprised that they did let Doc Rivers go, but I think ultimately what this was Kawhi and Paul George telling ownership, hey, listen, we need a new coach. And if they wanted Doc Rivers would have stayed. They wanted a new coach, so they moved on. And to me, it's as simple as that. It's the same as the Nets. Durant wanted Steve Nash, so you get Steve Nash. Kawhi wants you get a new coach. That's what it comes down to.
I agree. And as the Clippers front office, you have to do everything you can to get Kawhi and Paul George to stick around after next season.
Last year, their contracts.
Yeah, so you do whatever they want. If they say they want Lucas Frankel to be their coach, you say, nope, anyone else I'll hire. And they say, Mike Lucas, I'm the new head coach of the Lakers.
Gun to your head. What team is Kawhi Leonard playing for in the 2021-22 season?
The Clippers.
You think he stays? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Does he regret choosing the Clippers over the Lakers?
No, because I don't think he ever would have been second banana to LeBron.
Okay. I think that there's a part of him that maybe wonders how life would have been different, because you play with LeBron, I mean, you're virtually guaranteed a trip to the finals every single year. And that's a great transition by me. I should do this early. Lakers, Pete, NBA Finals, LeBron, 3-6 in the finals of his career, is looking to become the third player to win an NBA title with 3 different teams. Who are the other 2, Mike? I'm putting you on the spot again. You have 10 seconds.
Say the question one more time. Make sure I heard it right.
LeBron is looking to become the third player ever to win an NBA title with 3 different teams. Who are the other 2? 10, 9.
Kareem?
No.
I don't know.
Robert Horry and John Sally.
Oh, Horry, Big Shot Bob I should have got. Sally I never would have got.
They are, per my notes here, they are on, if they were to win the finals, they would be the second largest, it would be the second biggest finals upset in NBA history. The biggest was the Pistons in 2004.
If the Heat are to win the finals?
Yeah, it would be the second biggest finals upset of all time.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this series, LA clearly has the 2 best players, but after that, you can make the case Miami has 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So it's going to come down to depth over stars. If LeBron and AD show up and play to their capacity, I don't think Miami has much of a chance. I don't care how good of a coach Spo is. I don't care how many bodies they have to throw at both AD and LeBron. If those guys show up, Miami does not have an answer for them, especially offensively, point for point. LeBron's still a walking bucket. Anthony Davis, an absolute mismatch, no matter where he is, even with Bam on the floor. AD's got 3 inches on Bam and can extend the floor out or extend the range out beyond the 3-point line. If no one else shows up for the Lakers, though, and there's a chance that happens, we've seen role players in the past just crumble under the biggest stage. And even though there's no true road games, the bubble situation, you never know what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see Miami steal a few games. I don't see this series being easy for either team, if that makes sense. I can't see any team winning in 4 or 5. I think even if Miami wins, it's going to be in 7. If the Lakers win, it's going to be in 6 drag-out games.
Here's my pick on the finals. So LeBron made this face before Game 5 against the Nuggets. It was one of the most dialed-in faces I've ever seen. And if I can go back, I would have put my life savings on the Lakers to win that game. And LeBron is on such a mission right now. There is not a single, unless he gets hurt, there is not a single thing, person, player, coach, life situation that could possibly stop him from winning the title. This is the lock of the century. The Lakers are undoubtedly winning the series. LeBron will not let them lose this series under any circumstance, and I would be shocked if they did. Absolutely floored. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pick LA as well. I hope Miami wins because I want to see my boy E get a ring, but I'm picking the Lakers. I think the most important player in the series, though, outside of LeBron, is Tyler Hero. And I say that because if Miami is going to win a few games, they're going to need that third guy to really facilitate the offense and be that go-to scorer late in games. And we saw him in a couple of situations against Boston just go off, and they ran their entire offense through him. I think game 5 when he had 37, game 4, whatever game that was, their whole late game offense was give the ball to Tyler Hero, get out his way, and make him go to work. The Lakers' perimeter defenders are not very good. Plain and simple, they are not very good. Hero has the chance to have a couple of big games in this series, and Miami will need that to keep up the scoring pace with LeBron and AD. But I'm going Lakers in 6. And like you said, LeBron's dialed in, and if you get a locked-in LeBron, you have a very, very good chance to win every game you play.
Eric Spoelstra making his 5th final appearance, tied for 6th all-time. Everyone says he's going to the Hall of Fame. I guess he is, but
Spo 100%. Spo is one of the most underrated coaches of all time.
Underrated. Wow. Okay.
I know he had LeBron and Bosh and Wade for those first 4 trips, but Miami's never tanked. They've never fallen out of the playoff push. They've never had a top draft pick. And the combination of him and Riley, what they've done to keep this franchise relevant for the last 7-8 years after LeBron left, is remarkable considering the state of basketball, where if you're not good, you tank and hope you get a good player. Miami's done it the complete opposite way, and the rewards have shown. They're in the finals with a bunch of guys who went undrafted. Part of the Spo's greatness is look how he develops players. Look at Duncan Robinson. Look at Tyler Hero from the start of the season to now. They look at Bam. Part of his greatness is his ability to develop players.
Real quick before we go, college football last Saturday, Texas A&M, hung on as a 30.5-point favorite, hung on to beat Vanderbilt by the skin of their teeth. I believe that game was 17-12. LSU, in their first game of the season following the national title, lost to Mississippi State. Oklahoma, for a second straight year, loses to Kansas State. I don't know how the hell that happens, but wild day of college football on Saturday. Texas A&M has Alabama next. Bama, 16.5-point favorite. It's going to be Bama Clemson in the national title game. But I will say that this is going to be a wonky college football season. There's going to be teams each week that you're like, there's no way they lose. And then they lose because the camaraderie is not there. You don't know how long these guys have been together and gotten it right. I will say LSU losing to Mississippi State, should have seen it coming. They were 17.5-point favorites. They lost all their players from last year. To think that they would just come out in that first game and be in sync was just a stupid thought. Really foolish. And if I can go back, I wish I would put a ton of money on the Mississippi State money line because I probably would be able to retire.
I told you last week that I thought college football is going to be just absolutely wonky. As soon as you picked Oklahoma to make the Final Four last week, I knew I should have bet on Kansas State because that's the classic Frankel curse. He picks you early and your championship hopes die immediately after. I think Ohio State has to be in that conversation with Bama and Clemson, but I'm not going to be – I'm going to try to tame my overreactions to any one individual win or loss this season because I said it last week. You just said it. I agree. I think this is going to be the craziest college football season ever. And any line that you see that's massive, like A&M plus 30, like no way. I'm taking the underdog. Oklahoma was 28-point favorite over Kansas State. Like I'm taking the underdog. I just think there's so much parity with the unknown of the offseason and the lack of preparation. And we talked to A&M today, for example. They said Vanderbilt was the first time they've really hit since December. When you don't hit, you're not ready to play in the game. So you're just going to see some wonky, especially I take the overs, betting advice. Take all the overs. And if you see a massive spread, take the underdog. That's my 2 tips. Win a lot of money on me this week.
All right. Did you have all right. Whatever you say. I think obviously as time goes on, these great teams will get a little more in sync, but the craziest the craziest spread drama so far was Clemson up 49-0 against the Citadel. They were 49.5-point favorites or 50.5-point favorites, and they didn't score a single point in the second half, and they went 49-0, and they did not cover.
What a shame. Did you bet on that?
I did not. I've learned to be very, very disciplined here. I'm trying to pick my spots. If something jumps out at me, like the Chiefs being underdogs and plus money on the money line, that I will hammer. Buccaneers -6 against the freaking Broncos with their backup quarterback, losing their top receiver without their best defensive player. That to me was free money. Hammered that. So you gotta pick your spots. You can't just be like, oh, let me bet on that. Let me bet on this. Let me bet on that. So that's where I stand on that. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. We'll be back next week. Hopefully the Yankees will still be playing. Still got a long way to go. They're up 11-2 in the 8th inning. Luis Cessa's pitching. Never thought I would say that. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see y'all next week.